obviously, this is your second season in these roles. You guys have been playing with these characters for a couple years now. Are you guys finding things are getting, easier, more involved? Where is it kind of falling on that scale?
Yeah, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say we definitely had the luxury of time working on season 8 than we did on season 7. Just, there was a real time crunch to deliver on time for the fans for 7. And so the nature of our job, it was not what it normally is for that first season of ours. Season 8, a little more breathing room, which means more options for us to give to our team, and more time to play with each character, develop each character, like the ones that you saw in episode 3 with all the different iterations of Rick's and Morty's. So it gave us time and some creative freedom to play with, and in turn, I feel that's warmed us up into these characters a little more, and I think that any life that we're bringing to them is showing up even more in season 8 and beyond.
Yeah, what's crazy to think about is that we did season 7 in 2.5, 3 months, something like that. We recorded the entire thing, and then season 8 we had over a year to do it. So yeah, if there's any difference there, it's just that we were able to really take our time with it, play around, make different choices, and then go back and redo things to our heart's content.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to imagine, one of the hardest things about your jobs probably has to be keeping secrets. You hear it all the time with like Marvel and other secretive IPs. So now that you've been a part of the series, do you find yourself slipping up or do you find it, locked down or
No, it's so easy now because we had to keep the biggest secret for so long. We had to keep the secret that we were the new Rick and Morty, and
right?
to compared to that, everything else is like nothing. I don't care. It's not difficult to keep those secrets. But I just remember like talking to so many people in those 3 months and catching up with old friends, and they'd oh, so what are you up to now? And I'm just like, nothing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, having to quietly exit our day jobs and
Yeah,
with no
exactly. Yeah,
explanation was a tricky one. But yeah, if we can navigate that secrecy, I think you can trust us with any IP now.
yeah.
But I think that the biggest shift for me now is I have to keep straight what is season 8 and what is season 9, because if
Oh
we're
yeah.
working ahead of time, so stuff that because I'm excited for it all, and so I'll be thinking about an answer to a question about season 8 and want to talk about it, but I'm like, oh wait, that's not even season 8. That's something that it's even more in the future. So my timelines are all mixed up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my favorite things about this season is that we get a lot more adventures that I would say are Rick and Morty adventures versus like season 7, we had a lot of separate adventures that were awesome. But do you guys find it exciting to get to play with this dynamic of the two characters? I mean, obviously you guys don't record together, but in terms of like just playing into that dynamic, do you find it interesting?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially since getting to know Ian and becoming so close with him over this past like almost 2 years now. I personally absolutely find myself drawing on experiences that I've had with him when we do a scene. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking of something for season 9 right now where I was like, okay, that's happened with me and Ian before, so
Yeah,
I'm
if
just
Rick's yelling at Morty and Morty's cowering, that's a pretty good representation of.
that's there's no acting going on there.
Yeah, it's very easy to get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, season 7 saw the conclusion of this like giant multi-season arc of the Rick Prime arc. And now we're getting to see like a completely different side of these characters' story, journey, growth. How are you kind of exploring and approaching these very changed versions of your characters?
Season eight's, I think, a good reflection of the fallout from all the big stuff we saw happen and resolve in season 7. But it's not as if the whole thing's wrapped up. I mean, if on what Rickon taught us anything, it's that the series it doesn't rely on just that one arc. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and there's going to be new stuff that goes on too. So season eight's going to introduce new things that will take us to the next 100 years forever. And for us, it's just fun to play around as actors. It's fun to know that we have this multiverse, this open-ended nature to the show, because it provides more possibilities for us as actors to explore the range of these characters. And yes, there's some growth, there's change at the end of every episode, hopefully, but it's not always linear. And so that's why we're able to give a good mix, I think, of the canon stuff that's really, involved. The latest Citadel episode's a great example of that. And at the same time, we've seen brand new versions of Rick's and Morty's in that same episode, showing us that we can go anywhere with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no limits. Anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any aspects of your characters' arcs this season that you latch onto as, particularly interesting or relatable, or anything like that?
Well, I love a good bowl of gumbo.
And who doesn't lose their fidget spinner constantly, right? I mean, that's I don't know if that was just me who connected with that, but
Yeah, there's some great moments in this season, and I am really excited. I was really excited for the world to see the different iterations of Rick's and Morty's in the Rick, the Mort, and the Ugly. We're gonna see some other classic Rick and Morty adventures. I think episode 5 is a great example of a classic Rick and Morty adventure. We've seen a glimpse of that. I think that was what was teased at New York Comic Con last year in the earliest stages, the animatic stages. And so we're seeing some of that come together and getting to explore, different, maybe a youthful version of Rick, maybe, a growing version of Rick. But again, 2 steps forward, 1 steps back, keeps it interesting to the audience.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I've only seen the first half of the season so far, but I think my favorite episode of the first half of the season was episode 4. And I think it's, the wildest episode we've seen probably in years, not because it's like over the top or crude, but just because it's so deeply silly and committed to the bit. And I've talked with a lot of comedians over the years, and like selling this absurdity is one of the challenging things because you have to be so earnest with it. So, as actors, how do you kind of approach that balance between, leaning into this absurdity while still being completely earnest with it?
I think it's there's sort of a like you have to remember that yes, these circumstances are absurd and everything, and that's a huge part of being an actor is knowing the circumstances and what this character is going through, but also remembering that this is a real person. This is a real character, a human being who has all the emotions that we do, feels all the things that we do, and has to go through this. So I think for me, and I'm sure for a lot of actors, it's just putting yourself in there and drawing on that and just seeing what happens. But I think the authenticity, for as crazy and wacky and zany as the show is, that there's a real human element, and the authenticity is a huge part of that.
Yeah, the real gut punch moments of this show, even from early seasons, they hit that way because they teach on something, they touch on something in the human condition, and so that's I think what tugs at people's heartstrings. I mean, that's those moments that really get you. The Spaghetti episode had that. There's going to be some moments coming up in this season as well. We explored the Rick and Diane relationship last year. So there are those moments, and we have to treat them honestly. I think what makes any good sci-fi work is that regardless of what planet these people are from or what's going on, what tech is surrounding them, it's a human story. That's what makes Star Wars and Star Trek, so fascinating for fans. It's what makes our show so fascinating for fans. It's a human story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we get into that a little bit in episode 5 as well. And I think part of what makes episode 5 so interesting to me is that the characters kind of get to flip archetypes. So, we see Morty more in control, Rick less in control. Did you find it kind of fun to get to do this other side of things?
Yeah, and I think it'd be fun to switch voices every now and then, see if people notice.
That would be fun, wouldn't it? Oh,
just to mess with them. Yeah, no, I definitely. I think again, we're exploring the range and the depth of these characters, and why would anyone want to argue for the limitations on this show or each of these iconic roles? So we're going to see them, step into different roles. Particularly in the next couple episodes, which I hope the fans tune in for in droves. You're going to see how these moments lead to some new kinds of humor in the show too. There's when you flip a dynamic on its head out of nowhere, that's exciting, and it's not a betrayal of the character to bring them to a new place. So I think that's really cool.
No, absolutely.
Just makes for more interesting stories and stuff that's fun to see. And isn't that why we're all watching the show?
And some fun visual gags too. I mean, there's some hilarious
yeah.
Constellatio Rick.
Very much so. But yeah, no, you guys talk about like all the different versions of Rick and Morty that you guys get to play, especially in episode 3. Do you guys have like a favorite version that you guys get to play of your characters?
I think I don't know. I now having done I very much enjoy doing the Morty with a southern accent, straw tooth Morty or whatever, straw something
Yeah.
Morty. Because that's just fun to do. But it's hard to top Evil Morty from season 7 for me because he's just so cool, and I relished any opportunity I got to play him. So he's still top for me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with Homesteader Rick. I mean, Boss Hog obviously, takes the spotlight in episode 3, but Homesteader Rick was really fun because there's a brooding darkness and just a gruffness there that I think is present in a lot of Rick, but it's just more highlighted in him. And it was, it's a good way to vent my own, brooding frustrations.
Yeah, absolutely. And with all these like different versions of the characters, how do you latch on to, the factors that kind of distinguish it in your performance? Is it something you get from the writing? Is it something you get from direction? Is it something you can come up with yourself, or some combination of all of them?
It's a
Well,
great question. Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's also collaborative. So it's kind of a little bit of everything about what you said. It's of course what we can bring to it, where everyone's unique. So everyone's going to have a unique perspective on things. But then it's also, yeah, the director, showrunner, writers, producers, everyone kind of just being like, yeah, let's figure out, let's push and pull and figure out which direction this specific take or this specific character should go.
Yeah, the writers jumped in to develop Boss Hog with me, sort of to see what I was coming up with, and then we brought him. It started off very, very big, very broad, and we had to bring it back a little more to Rick. So what you hear is the result of a lot of experimentation. Science is cool, and yeah, it's as Harry mentioned, it's a collaborative process. You always want to make sure that it's close to Rick. The Rick, however extreme, is still a Rick. But in that same episode, you had one of the scientists cloning Ricks say fiddlesticks, and that was on the page. So I had to take a line like fiddlesticks and say, well, what kind of Rick would say fiddlesticks? What would make me say this? And it came out a little more nerdy. Fiddlesticks. It's still Rick, but it's a different Rick than we've heard because I don't think we've heard Rick say fiddlesticks in the past. So it's those little things picking up on and hopefully color the world a little more for the fans.
That
Yeah,
line got a big laugh out of me.
yeah, no, that was a great bit. But I think it's fair to say that we are in a time when adult animation has honestly never been better. And as voice talent, why do you find this so exciting?
Hmm. Well, I've been a fan of adult animation since before I was allowed to watch it. I used to sneak down to the basement to watch Family Guy when I was a kid, and I've been a fan. Ian and I are huge fans of The Simpsons, so we love all things adult animation. So just for me, it's cool to step into that world and be a part of that world in any way. Much less being one of my favorite animated shows of all time. So just, I don't know, it's a dream come true to even be a part of that world.
I echo that, and I'd say the experience of being on the voice talent side of things, that's so often that's the on ramp for anyone into any new favorite show. It's you hear it first, and as a kid growing up watching The Simpsons, it's the Homer voice that gets you to start thinking all the wacky voices that come on there. I think it's probably part of my early development as an actor was just watching adult animation and wanting to emulate those voices. Certainly brought me to where I am now. And knowing that can be someone's on-ramp to a show that then connects with them. And knowing that, it might have been the Pickle Rick episode with an iconic line that got someone into the show, and then they come to season 8 and it's tugging at the heartstrings for them. Knowing that the voice is often the first step for someone to discovering a new show is it's a unique opportunity we don't take lightly.